When we work with containers like a LXC container or Docker container, we often have to attach some persistent storage, so the data is kept there even if we remove that container. And it's usually done using bind mounts or volumes. And I noticed that many people find this subject a little bit confusing. So let's talk about these bind mounts and volumes, and specifically how do we create them, how do we work with them, and first of all, what's the difference between bind mount and a volume? We will also talk about named and unnamed volumes and some other related topics. So let's run a lightweight Docker container called busybox, so we can then play with volumes and bind mounts using that busybox container. So this is my Ubuntu, but basically you can run the same commands on any system that can run Docker. I will open my terminal then. I will switch to root user. And the command I need to run is docker run -dit busybox. And that busybox container is sometimes called a Swiss Army tool. It's only like 5 megabytes in size, but it's a great candidate for us to work with volumes and bind mounts. The dit means the D argument means it will be detached. This Docker container will be detached from this terminal session. So even if I close this window, it will still be running in the background. The I means that the interactive shell will stay open for that container. And the T will allocate the TTI terminal running on that container. All of that simply means that we will be able to connect to that container later on. And we will be able to run some commands. Okay, let's press enter then. And our busybox Docker container should be up and running. We can check it with docker ps command. You can see it's up for 18 seconds, and we can connect to it using shell command. That's our container ID, so the command I need is docker exec-it, then the ID of the container, and the shell command. Note that I only used 7c from the container ID. That's enough, even 7 should be enough. The Docker will know which container I'm talking about. So let's press enter. And just to show you, if you are not familiar with busybox, you can do all the basic Linux commands, maybe not all, but most of them, like dfh or lsl, let's say, or you can even ping. All of that works perfectly fine. But what I wanted to show, let me clear that maybe. Let's cd to the root folder. If I run lsl here, you can see it's an empty folder. Well, if we run lsla, there is actually one file, one hidden file. But if we exclude hidden files, we will see the total is 0. I'm just showing it because we will use that folder later on. But for the time being, let's exit from the container. We just use exit command. Then let me run docker ps again. And we can inspect that container to get more information about it. We use command docker inspect and then the beginning of container ID. And what I'm interested here is to find the mounts portion. So we have to scroll up a little bit, and here it is. You can see there are no mounts. This is simply an empty list. As you can imagine, it will later on change. For the time being, let's stop our Docker container. Let's clear again, maybe first. Docker stop. And what was it? 7c, I think. The container ID. And if I run docker ps command again, nothing is shown. But if I run docker ps-a, which includes all containers, including the stopped ones, you can see the container is still there. So let's remove it entirely using docker rm and then the ID of the container. If I now run it, the docker ps-a, we can see it's gone. Let's start playing then with volumes and bind mounts. First, just to show you, as you can see, I am in my home directory. If we print wd, you can see it's home Marek. And if I go to downloads folder, you can see I have a file there. It's called picture.png. So in home Marek downloads, I have one file called picture.png. Now, how can I make it available from inside the container? Let's say I want to create a new container and I want it to be able to reach that file. I can do it by running, maybe let's clear again. I can do it by running docker run, basically the previous command we run, docker run -dit busybox. But I will pass one more argument. I will get back here, I will type -v, and this is the older version, because Docker says we should use mount now, --mount, and we will do later on. But you know what? You will see that -v all over the place, because people keep using the older version of command. So we will learn both of them. So anyways, -v, now the location I want to pass to my container, the location on my host, which is /home/Marek /downloads, because I'm in this folder and I know the file is in this folder, so that's what I want to pass to my container. Then : and the location on my container. So when I log on to my container, where do I want to find it? And let's say I want to find it in root my volume. Because we know we've got root folder on the container, and that root folder is empty, except of that hidden file, of course, but it doesn't have any other folders. That means I want to create new folder called my volume, and I should find in that folder all the content that I have here on my local host. Let's run it then. We should have running container now. We can check it with docker ps. And now we can connect to it. Docker exec-it, container ID, and shell. If I now cd to the root folder, and I run lsl, this time I can see new folder was created, and it is called my volume, which is basically this. And if I go to that my volume folder, I can see the file picture.png was passed from the host to my container. So whatever I have in my host in home Marek downloads, I also have available in this container in root my volume location. And if we now exit it, and if we run docker inspect and ID of this container, and if we go to mounts portion again, which is a little bit, we have to scroll up, we can see mounts where source is home Marek downloads and the destination, basically source is on the host and destination is on the container. And we can see type is bind. You probably guessed this is bind mount. And what it also means is that the Docker cannot manage the source. The source is simply a pre-existing folder on your host device and you just make it accessible from within container using that -v command. But this source was not created by Docker, it was already there on the host. Alright, I think that's clear enough. Let's clear again. Let's run docker ps. And let's stop and remove this Docker container. Okay. So let's clear again. That was our previous command we ran. Let's remove that first portion though. Let's remove all of that. Home Marek downloads. And I will run it just like that, with no source supplied, only the destination. What will happen? I will press enter, and we can see that it ran fine. Docker didn't give us any error or any other like missing information. It started container as normal. So what did it bind then? Let's check. Let's run docker ps first. Let's connect to it. And let's go to the root volume. As you can see, it created the new folder, my volume, so we've got that location, root my volume. But let's get to that my volume then. This folder now is an empty folder. But what Docker used as a source then? Because the source is missing here. So let's get out of this container and let's inspect this container. What do we have now in mounts portion? Let's have a look. What we have here is the type volume. That means Docker created a volume for us. And finally it's called unnamed volume, even though it has name. As you can see, it's a long hash-like name for that volume, but we call it unnamed volumes. So they are the volumes that are created for us automatically by Docker. And the destination is here, root volume, but it's empty, because in this volume that Docker created for us, there are no files. We can also run, if I clear again, we can also run docker volume inspect, or maybe first docker volume ls. So I've got some old volumes here, I can see. So the one that was created now, let's run the previous command again. That's our volume, started with cbb, okay. The middle one is our volume that just has been created. And we can inspect the volume itself as well. The command is docker volume inspect and then the ID of the volume. Here we have all the information regarding this volume that Docker created for us. But what we can also see, we can see that mount point. What is it? It's the location where this volume exists. It's var lib docker volumes and then this long name and then underscore data. This is the location of this volume that Docker created for us. So what we can do, we can copy, let's say I will copy cp from home Marek downloads the picture.png. I can copy that file to this location, var lib docker volumes. So I'm doing it on my host. Let's copy that. And now let's connect to the container again. Now if I go to my root, my volume, oh sorry, that's wrong command, it's IT, not ID. I didn't even realize I didn't actually log on. So let's go to the root to my volume. Now let's check. This time we can see the picture.png, but that picture.png is not the one that we have in home Marek downloads. It's the one that we copied to the destination, to the volume that Docker created for us. Alright, let's remove everything now. I will exit from my container. Docker stop and Docker remove. Now let's check the Docker volumes, or clear and do it again maybe. And let's remove the volumes as well with docker volume rm command. Everything is gone now. We can list, we can remove volumes, but we can also create volumes using docker volume command line. So you can do something like docker volume create and then the name of the volume. So you can manage the volumes this way, but there is another even easier way. Let's just remove that. And let's find our previous command where we created the container using up arrow. And it was this command, wasn't it? What I can do now, I can go back here where we are supposed to place our source name, what we want to source for that volume. We can put our name here simply. Let's call it maybe test volume and then colon. And there is a very slight difference between what we do now and what we did for bind mount. Because for bind mount, we started with /, because we wanted to pass the location on the host itself. Now, we don't have that /. This is simply a name for a volume we want a Docker to create for us, or if this volume already exists, we will simply use this volume. And we can bind the same volume to multiple containers. So you can create a test volume and you can use it for as many containers as you want. Alright, let's see how it works. Let's click enter now. The Docker container was created, and I would start maybe with docker volume command first. We can see our new volume that was created when we run this command. Now let's go to the container. And if we go to root, we can see the my volume is here. And that's fine. Let's leave it running. Let's just exit the container, but the one starting with AAEF, let's leave it running. It's running for about a minute, we can see. Let's create another container using that new mount command Docker wants you to use. Let's play with that. We can do docker run -- mount. What we should do now, we have to specify the source, and we write it as source equals, no spaces, the name of the source volume, and the name of the source volume is test volume. I want to attach the same volume that was created for another container. Now comma, so it's not colon, it's comma for this -- mount option. And now we specify the destination with destination equals command. And we can do root again. And let's change it a bit. Not my volume. Remember, we always used my volume. Let's call it, I don't know, documents maybe. And as always, -dit busybox. This command means we are passing the same volume that is already attached to the previous container, but our destination this time will be slightly different on the container. Let's press enter. Now we run docker ps. You can see 2 containers running, and this one is running for just 5 seconds, so this is the new one. Let's connect to this new one. Let's go to the root. Now the first difference is that we have a documents folder, because that's what we wanted to be created. It's not my volume like on the other container. But let's do one more thing. Let's get to that documents. I will clear maybe again. I will touch file here. created new file, touch marek.txt. It created marek.txt file on this new container. So let me exit it. Let's run docker ps. Let's connect to the old container. cd to root. This container has my volume, not documents, but if we go there, we can see the same file. And why is that? Because we've got different destination. It's a root my volume here and the root documents on the other container, but we've got the same source. And the source is our test volume that Docker created for us. So we use the same source for both containers. And whatever we create on one container, it will be seen on the other, and the other way around. That's nearly it. There is just one more thing I wanted to mention. Let's exit that. You know that command. You can use words source and destination, but you can use abbreviations like src and dst instead. Makes it a little bit shorter, and instead of dst, you can also use word target. That will work the same way. Target is basically a destination. And what about if you wanted to create a new container, but you only want to read from that test volume that Docker created? We can specify here, after a comma, we can say read only. That means this container will only be able to read, but we will not be able to write to that test volume. And for that there is also abbreviation. You can put RO only. And you can do the same if you used -v option, but instead of colons, you use commas there. Yeah? You would have to replace it with comma. But it's basically the same. This is all I really wanted to say today. I hope it makes it clearer, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.